Selling like hot cakes we are today. Makes a change. Thank you, madam. Have a good day. Sir, much obliged. Morning to you too. All right, that lot. Well, I thought. I always look them in the eye when they gives me my penny. Windows to the soul and all that. I judge them as much as they judge me. Most of them don't think I got a clue. Stuck-up toffs. They treat me like dirt. That one-armed geezer who can't get a proper job. You know what they're thinking. Probably got his comeuppance for some wrongdoing. Wrongdoing, yeah. Right. Like the pot calling the kettle black. If only they knew. Probably don't think I can read, neither. Straight from the horse's mouth. Get your news from Seth. Get your news from your Gloucester oracle. Come on, read the latest. Penny a time. Oh, thank you, sir. Oh no, my friend, it's still going on, I know. They've been at it for weeks. And it's going to carry on for at least another week. That's what they're saying now. It's those big-nosed judges. Well, they have to spin it out. Well, they get paid more, don't they? The longer they deliberate. Good for selling papers, though, mind. I'm not complaining. They're saying now that big trial is happening Thursday. Yeah, it's going to be big. Oh, and guess what? We've got some of them bigwigs travelling down from London to hear all our scandal, as if they haven't got enough of their own in the big smoke. Sticking their noses in Gloucester's business shouldn't be allowed. Ooh, guess who I saw at the cross the other day? It were none other than Charles Dickens, Mr. Boz himself. Yeah, we had a long chat, Mr. Boz and I. Saw him, looking me up and down. Easy to read what was going through his mind. Here's some interesting material for my next book. That's what he was thinking. So he starts asking me a lot of questions, desperate to know how I lost my arm. Mightily impressed that I fought in the Crimean. Asked me if I got a pension for my injury, as if I would. And then asked what I thought about all this election bribery and fraud, and if the scandal were helping to sell more papers. Yeah, we must have been talking for a good 20 minutes. He told me he was writing some long article for a journal I'd never heard of about the bribery and corruption in Gloucester. Bloody cheek. I understand he's even written about Gloucester as a wonderful but misleading city. Misleading? Misleading? What a nerve! The only thing that's misleading is his description. You ask me, it's more like something the artful dodger would say than a journalist who knows his onions. Anyway, he's got no right to tell us what we are or how we should behave in Gloucester. We don't do that to them cockneys, do we? And he wants to be giving out news about Gloucester. He's got to ask Seth's permission first. And I ain't giving it to Mr. Boz, so he can stick that in his pipe. Oh, you should have seen the look on Mr. Boz's face when I gave him such short shrift he so deserved. He looked, so dejected. Just like a scene with little Nell, it were. Needless to say, I got no tip from Mr. Boz when we finished talking. But I'd love to think that there's a chance I might be in his next novel. Imagine that. Seth Jenkins, living hand to mouth, making ends meet by selling papers down Gloucester Cross and acting as a go-between for the city's corrupt underworld. What title would you give that, eh? How about A Tale of One City?
I am to be wed today, not through my choice. My father, King Alfred of Wessex, seeks to consolidate two territories. It is my duty. The Vikings are slaughtering our people and stealing our lands. We must unite the Wessex and the Mercians to defeat them. Mother says I must set aside my childish ways. There is a boy I like, Thelwald, a warrior, but he is now lost to me. We have kissed. My first kiss to a boy. I am the daughter of a king, but even at 16, I cannot do what I like. The ceremony begins. My father and Aethelflaed, Lord of Mercia, exchange swords. My intended stands tall in front of me, while his hair is grey and he bears the scars of many battles. He is a handsome man. The priests recite the sacred texts. The rings are exchanged. The deed is done. I am virtually ignored at the wedding. It is not a surprise. I am simply the currency in a political arrangement. My mother warned me of the pains of the wedding night. It is a woman's lot in life to bear these pains. Aethelflaed covers me with small kisses. It is not so painful as I thought. The city Gloucester and the ways of the Mercians are new to me. I see the looks as I walk around the settlement. I hear whispers. Do you see how her nose is stuck in the air? In the air, I thought. I should appear as a woman, not as a child staring at her feet. I repeat to myself, I will not cry. I will not cry. I slowly overcome my fear. Husband, is there nothing of substance I can do? I helped my father build defences. Let me help again. I do not want a life of idleness. There is a long silence. Aethelflaed is tired after weeks of fighting the Danes. I will give him time. Weeks pass. Finally, he raises the subject. We can use your skills both to advise and, if you desire, as a worker. But you are a precious resource. Let us find a project of you, worthy of the Lady of Mercia. An idea slowly emerges. We could build a new minster in Gloucester, one worthy of Mercia's major city. But we have other news. We become proud parents of a daughter. The Mercians would have liked to see a son, but they are charmed by the pleasure and excitement of the proud father. A healthy daughter will do, to be named Aethelflaed. The Wessex blood and the Mercian blood are now one. We are cheered in the streets. Aethelflaed looks on approvingly as he sees a string of strong forts built across Mercia. He asks me to sit by his side at the council of leaders. You are a true daughter of Alfred the Great, he says. You have earned a place at the council. The work on the new minster continues. We identify a handsome site, green and lush, and begin to build. The Danes are relentless in their attacks on our territory, and we cannot rest. My brother and his Wessex soldiers join on then. We fight our way north, deep into the lands held by the enemy. Aethelflaed can no longer be a part of the battle. I take my place in his stead. There is a great victory. The bones of St. Oswald's are taken from the Lincolnshire Abbey. They provide an important symbol for our city and our new minster, now to be known as St. Oswald's. Aethelflaed looks exhausted. His face is ashen. The body pays a price for a lifetime of fighting. He is no longer able to attend council. I am asked to take his place. It is a great day in Mercia when our new minster of Oswald's is ready to be dedicated. Great celebrations are held on the common. The crowds cheer Aethelflaed and me. We are a proud and loving couple. I am accepted as a Mercian. The old slights, long forgotten. It is not long before we bury my husband. The marriage I resisted had been a source of great strength and joy to me. I am devastated. Aethelflaed stands by my side, and we must be strong together. There is much to do. The Danes continue to attack. There is but one thing to do, to go into their heartland. We plan attacks on Bridgnorth, Tamworth and Stafford. Bridgnorth and Stafford fall to my men. We hasten to build forts to defend them. Elfyn is by my side throughout. She is the best of both of us. 7 years after the death of Aethelflaed, I join him. They carry my body 75 miles to be buried next to him at St. Oswald's. Many of the roads are lined with well-wishers as my coffin passes. My people bid me a fond farewell. My brave soldiers stand cheering. Children are placed on soldiers to see me pass. They will see a united England in their lifetimes, and I am proud to have played a part in laying foundation for the England we know today.
Hello? Do you want to sit down? Lovely. Anybody see my cow? Anyone? Can't miss it. Big bugger. Walk this way. Definitely around here somewhere. Big brown and white thing. Great big horns like this. Now, anyway, I hear you asking, who am I? I'm Sarah Nelms. Have you heard of me? No, didn't think so. Have you heard of Edward Jenner? Yeah. Thought you might have heard of him. Him who lives down here in Berkeley. Him with the famous doctorship. A marvellous curer of ills and disease. Well, let me tell you about him. The truth. God's honest truth about the man. Now, I were a milkmaid for him. And one day, I saw him in his garden. Not that that was strange. He was always looking at nature and peering at bugs and plants and the like. Not sure what's so interesting about a beetle or a caterpillar, but he could look at them for hours. Anyway, he sat there, under a tree, head in his hands, muttering something. Now, I was just coming down to milk Maxine and Blossom, that's his best cows, and thought that maybe he was sick himself. So I went right up to him and asked him if he was ill or something. He apologised that I had seen him in such a state and said he had a matter of importance to consider. I persisted, and he said he could not understand how blooms carrying people could float in the air and how trains could run on steam, but people still died of smallpox. Were over my head, to be honest, but I tried to look interested. Although what I wanted to do was milk the cows and get over my tea. I said he should pray for the people. What with his dad being a vicar and all that, but Dr. Jenner shouted that God was not listening. I said I thought he was always listening, and Dr. Jenner said he didn't understand why dear little babies had to die. Well, I didn't know what to do. Dr. Jenner was in a right old state. I said perhaps he should look at his books and the writing in them. But he said he'd read them hundreds of times and there was nothing in them, and that some diseases could not be cured. So then, I was bold and asked him outright what was the problem he had, and could I help him with it? He looked at me like I was dumb. And then he said there was usually answers to most problems, but not to smallpox. He said he'd seen so many die from it that he could not bear it any longer. Well, I said to him, then and there, if they was to become milkmaids, then they would be safe. I said to him, what they need is a good dose of the cowpox. Oh, it's not nice, but you don't get the smallpox. I said, all my family and generations all before us all had the cowpox, and we none of us had the smallpox. It were like a family tradition. We all had a few boils and sores, but I hardly noticed them at all now. It was like the light in his eyes came alive, and he jumped up and asked me to go with him to the hut. He asked if he could take a bit of pus from the pox on the arms, and I said he could have as much as he liked. I didn't need it, did I? Didn't know what it was for. He took some, and he rushed off into the village where poor young James Phipps lived, and cut his arm and put the pus in there. Poor Mrs. Phipps was in a right old state when he starts cutting the boy's arm and smearing the pus in. She was a-shrieking and fainting and nearly falling over, and I had to sit her down and get her a cup of water. Well, after a week or so, James Phipps was up and bouncing around like a little sparrow. Dr. Jenner said he needed to think of a good name for the cure, so I said he could call it after Blossom or Maxine, the cows which probably gave me the pox. And he thought it was a good idea, but he must have misheard me, because I heard him muttering about a vaccine. I was going to tell him the cow was called Maxine, but I couldn't be bothered. I had better things to do. Anyway, long and short of it, he became a very famous, very rich man. People all over talked about the man with the warmest heart. But I never heard him tell that it were me that gave him the idea. No, it was Edward Jenner got all the credit. Now, he might have been the one to suck the pus out of my arm and smear it around, but it was me that gave him the idea for that vaccine. And it should have been Maxine. So, if you hear folk talking about Dr. Edward Jenner, who found the cure for smallpox, could you just cough and interrupt and tell him it were me, Sarah Nouns, what gave him the idea. Now, where's that bloody cow?
And we also have a round of applause for the writers of the first three pieces.